it had been implied that they had grown up in very different kind of realities, but it's explicitly said in this week's episode that, they have very different childhoods growing up. Can you speak a little bit about how that's impacting both of these characters going forward as they're kind of navigating their relationship with each other and just how to kind of get out of this because they have that very different foundation at a core?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Randall, my character, it's a wanting to get back into the thing. He left, and I mean, for what he thought were good purposes, and he thought he was going to try to save the family. What it was trying to be the big brother kind of thing, but it didn't work out. And I think he plays tough on the outside, but the desire to reconnect with his family is really what's driving Randall at this point. So
Yeah, I think for me, it's and Joe, it's understanding. It's trying to, it's been said how much I idolized, Elliot growing up, but it's a different kind of idolization. It's more like a kid who, I spoke on this earlier, more like a kid who idolizes a sports star. There's a distance there, but I got the stories from mom of how great of a football player he was in high school, or what his war stories were, or you know, protecting and serving, New York citizens. But it wasn't something that I necessarily grew up admiring from an exposure standpoint. And so I think moving forward for him, it's I think he feels a little bit left alone, that he didn't have kind of the childhood that they did, and trying to find a way to sort of insert himself into a family history that is complicated, it's traumatic, and as the layers continue to sort of get peeled back, and you start to see more and more, it's him sort of struggling through his addiction and through his business choices that you'll come to see later in the season. I think it's all stemming from a place where he did it. He kind of did his childhood alone, and I think there's a sadness to that, and he doesn't necessarily know where he fits in the family.
Yeah. Well, speaking specifically to the intervention, which was a fantastic scene that you guys did, can you speak a little bit both about filming that and kind of getting the intensity correct, and also where they go after this point? Because obviously Joey disappears and Randall's in a little bit of a situation afterwards.
yeah, I mean, obviously it was an intense scene, and Michael was fantastic in it. Um, it yeah, it sets him off on his path, and it's kind of Randall is just set on his path. I think he's like, you know what, I'm the older brother, and I'm gonna follow this through. And I think you're gonna see some really interesting ways that happens in the next few episodes.
Yeah, it's definitely intense to do. I think there's your hope is that you try to. I think I was pretty hyped up early on and maybe going a little too far with it, but settled into it, and you're trying to do to be in the service of the writing and the material, namely, how do actual addicts respond when something like this happens? And there's a lot of hurt, and there's a lot of inability to sort of see the problem that is so obvious to the ones that love them. And it's an ultimate betrayal. They don't, um, you know, it's very, very difficult for them to feel anything else then you guys don't know what you're talking about. I've got this under control, and this is completely unnecessary. And frankly, shame on you. And that's the balance. I haven't seen the scene yet, but that's the balance that we were trying to strike there of what chords to hit when it comes to a scene like this. And it, as Dean said, it sets me off on a different kind of path. That then leads to going over to mom's house and trying to get some money.